Matthew here from MiniWargaming.com, and it's time for another Sit and Talk. This is a show where you can ask me anything about anything. Wargaming, business, politics, religion, personal life, doesn't matter. If you're easily offended by topics such as religion, then please do not watch this show. There's lots of other shows to watch. And this one, I just answer people's questions. And sometimes personal beliefs come into that, so if you're not able to hear that without it really bothering you, then I strongly suggest you don't watch it. Not that the show is mainly about that, it just comes up from time to time. And the way it works is you leave your comments and questions on this Sit and Talk, and I might answer them in the next one. And so I just look at the last one. Now, don't leave your comment if you're watching this on YouTube. Instead, click the link in the video description below and leave it on our site. It's just easier for me to organize. And while you're there, make sure you thumb up any questions that you want me to answer. Don't thumb down the ones that you don't, because that's just not nice. Let's just thumbs up the one that we want, and then I take the top 10 most popular ones, and then I just randomly choose questions after that. Like, I don't even randomly choose them. I just have a program that randomly outputs them. So let's take a look. Dynamics. Hey Matt, if you were to take away and hide one of Dave's cultists every day or so, how long do you think it would take him to realize? Well, I was just using the cultist yesterday, and he's got to have 200 or 300 of them. So if I took it away every day or so we're averaging, I don't know, a cultist every day and a half, or let's say it's every 2 days. So that'd be 180 cultists in a year. So it'd take me about a year before most of them were gone. So maybe it would take him 4 or 5 months to realize. It also depends on how often he uses them, because he hasn't been using them quite as often because he's been getting to Space Wolves and other armies as well. So I'd give it 4 months. The Rabbi Ryan. Hey Matt, random question. If you could live your life as a woman for an entire year, would you do it? Nothing else would change. You would still maintain a healthy marriage and your children would love you. You would just have the female anatomy. And if it helps you out, you'd be gorgeous. Thanks, and Tauba. No, not for any other reason than I have zero desire to be a woman. So I'd have to say no to that. That is a random question though, I must admit. Look, there's the sun just perfectly coming through right here. It's that time of year where the sun is coming at this angle. Cramblade, as all the other employees at Mini Wargaming seem to have facial hair, do you feel left out? Might I suggest Elvis-style sideburns? Well, I don't feel left out, but even if I wanted to, I would not be able to grow a beard or even a mustache. The space just doesn't do it. I remember there was one time I was on vacation for a couple weeks and I decided just to see what would happen if I let it, because I'd never tried before. And even after a week, it was just kind of, it's just patchy. It's like I get a little bit here and a little bit here and a little bit here, but it never fills in. And I wouldn't actually even be able to grow sideburns. It just doesn't grow. I guess I got some sort of baby face going on here. Like I'll get like a couple hairs growing and a lot of kind of fuzz, but not a beard. I don't even know. I'd be curious to just kind of let it grow and see what it would look like. But no, I'm not jealous. I remember when I was growing up, everybody else was like getting facial hair and all grown up and stuff. And I remember being like, oh, I'm not getting that. But now that I'm a grown up, I appreciate it, because I still shave every day because there's enough that comes in that just kind of gets annoying. But it takes me like 30 seconds to a minute to shave, and then I don't get that whole 5 o'clock shadow thing. So I appreciate that. Lochnath. Hello, Matt. I was wondering what happened to the Send Dave a T-shirt campaign video and why it was taken down so quickly. Basically, there was a lot of negative comments. I think it just kind of came across the wrong way. All it really was Dave saying, hey, you want to send us your shirts for your club or your store or your wargaming related company? We'll wear it in our videos and you can get some free advertising. Just send us your shirts. And I think it just kind of came across more, a lot of the comments were vulgar and just downright rude. And it was just, and I know it's probably just a loud minority, but there was so many of them that it was eliciting this really bad reaction from some of the commenters. So we realized there's very few times that this happens. Over the past few years, it's happened maybe 3 or 4 times where the comments have been so bad that we delete the video because it's just obviously having more of a negative effect, or at least appears to be. And if anything else, it's having a negative effect on us because it's hard when we get a lot of negative comments on a video. It's one thing when it's constructive criticism, like I put a narrative campaign and people like talk about what they like and didn't like. It's another thing when people are just downright rude and vulgar. So yeah. Anyway, I had a shirt I was going to send in. Also, shh, don't tell Dave, but I have an unopened Stormclaw box that I was going to send in as well to help with Dave's growing Space Wolves collection. Well, I'm sure he'd appreciate that. And you can for sure still send us shirts. Like I have a blue table painting shirt. I've got Way of the Brush shirt for Chris's show, that's his own show. It's not a mini wargaming thing. I got a Den of Imagination shirt because they sent me one, and I like them, and I'll wear them as long as they fit. I think I'm an extra large normally, and Dave's a medium probably. So if you want to, you can. But no, we're not all destitute and requiring you to send us clothing for us to be clothed. It's just more for variety. Ice Cool. Hi, Matt. Thank you as CEO to allow Ash and Steve to make Warhammer Fantasy bat reps. I think they did great for the first Old World Wars bat reps. Peace them. Vault member for life. Well, thank you. And yes, they did get really good reception for those ones. A lot of people are excited that fantasy is back. And so right now it's just going to be once a week, but if the views continue to support and the Vault signups continue to support that, we'll definitely expand fantasy's coverage to more than once a week. Robin Sparkles. Hi, Matt. First off, I just wanted to say that you are by far the most handsome wargamer on YouTube. Well, why, thank you. I was reading an article online and it stated that the most misunderstood animal is the hippo. I just wanted your thoughts on that. Do you believe any other animal to be more misunderstood? Thanks a lot, and I love your videos. You guys are great. The most misunderstood animal is the hippo. I'm not quite sure what I misunderstand about the hippo. A hippo is this big animal that's really strong, that can crunch. I remember watching a documentary once where there was like this, I don't know what you call a group of hippos, like so just a bunch of hippos in the water, and just across from them were a bunch of crocodiles, like huge crocodiles, ones that are terrifying. But the hippos and the crocodiles were just kind of swimming together, like, well, whatever. And a hippo's kid, whatever you call the hippo kids, actually swam like amongst these humongous crocodiles that could just be like, oh, and just eat that little baby hippo. But because this mama hippo was watching, and those hippos could kill those crocodiles, they left it alone. And I thought that was really cool. That they kind of coexisted. Now, like the documentary said, out of fear, the crocodile doesn't eat the hippo. But I don't know if it's out of fear. We don't actually know that. Maybe the crocodile's misunderstood. Yeah, crocodiles are misunderstood. Everybody's scared of them. Like, oh no, it's a big guy that can eat me and go and swallow me, and I can pull my body parts out afterwards. But the crocodile's just a hungry guy. It's like, I'm hungry. I got this big long snout. When I run, I have to go in a straight direction. It's really hard for me to turn. So I have to do it in the water, all stealth-like. Yeah, people just don't get the crocodile. So crocodiles are definitely misunderstood. Bruised ex-bunions. Why does your wife not have a key to her own house? Well, I don't believe that wives should have keys to their house. No, she has a key. She locked it inside the house. She left it in the house, went and locked the door from the inside, and closed the door, and then went, crap. And yeah, so she has a key. We have extra keys. There's actually a spare key, but it was inside the house as well. So we got to find a better place to put that, and not somewhere like under the welcome mat. Vespasian Flavian. Matt's the question of my life. Why is your Minds of Moria Spanish? Man, if it's going to be the question of your life, get the language right. It's French. It's because back years ago when we had our store, but I mean like, not just, we only had our store just like a year and a half ago, but like years ago when we ordered Minds of Moria, they sent us the French one by accident. And I just never got around to returning it. And so we just have never gotten around to doing anything with it. And so it just kind of, now it's decorating the wall. So yeah. Justin Stone. Hey Matt, a new Vault member here. Like many of the new Vault members you mentioned in some of your videos, I joined because of the narrative campaigns. Awesome. That was a brilliant idea on your part. Well, thank you. But I can't claim it was brilliant because we just try things. We try video series, and with the ones that stick, it's a what we call the spaghetti test. We didn't make that up. That's a marketing thing. Somebody else coined that phrase. But the spaghetti test is where, well, if you're making spaghetti, apparently, I've never tried this, but if you want to know that the spaghetti is ready, you pick it up and you throw it against the wall. And if it sticks to the wall, it's ready. That's what I'm told. I've never tried that. I just kind of cook the spaghetti and then it's ready and it's good. But that's what the spaghetti test is called. And so in business terms, that means you try stuff and you just kind of throw it out there, and whatever sticks, you keep doing. And if it doesn't stick, you don't do it. I've heard it referred to, was it Good to Great in the book that he talked about? It being referred to bullets before cannonballs. And that's where I think it was in Good to Great he talked about that, or one of his books. I don't remember the name of the author, Jim something or other, I think. There's a Mick in there somewhere. But in that he talks about how the companies, the ones that go under, are the ones that take too many risks. Like he calls that firing a cannonball before you have aimed it or have tested it. And so they put a ton of money behind a project that's untested and they're unsure if the market even wants it. And then they put it out there and it's a huge gamble. Most of the time it fails, and sometimes they get lucky and it works. And so he says, you shoot bullets before cannonballs. And all that means is you just kind of try out the idea in a smaller scale, and the ones that work at that scale, because you have to kind of, it's not, obviously if it's a smaller scale, it's not going to make tons and tons of money. It'll just kind of give an indication for its scale. The ones that work, you then hone into a cannonball, and those that don't, you don't. And so we've put out lots of video series over the past years. Even when we started making videos right at the beginning, we didn't mainly make battle reports. We made anything really. We made terrain tutorials, we made kind of goofy videos, I don't even remember all the stuff we made. It was kind of all over the place. Kind of made whatever we could. It wasn't until later that, we did make battle reports too, but it wasn't until later that battle reports kind of became more of our thing. That's what we really focused on, because what happened is over time we could see which videos were getting the most views. And we saw that by far battle reports were beating everything else pretty much, except for maybe the occasional short film, but those take a lot of time to make one. And they were just getting more views than anything else. And so that's when we started doing more battle reports. And then we try other things, and we try other things. We try other games. We cover different, whatever it happens to be. We just try something new. And I remember like the first time we decided to give away a free CD in exchange for people signing up for the vault for free. And that was hugely successful. And so we had tried it with something simple. It cost us next to nothing to implement. And when we saw that worked, we kept doing it. And then after a while, that became less effective. And so we've kind of slowed down doing that. We don't do them as often. And this is just the constant ebb and flow of running a business, of seeing what's working and what isn't. So the narrative campaign was just, people had been asking us to do them for a long time, and I had never liked the idea because I couldn't figure out how to do them. And then one day it kind of dawned on me how I could make it work. And that was the whole story time battle report combination, where I did a story time where I just sit in front of the camera and talk for 5 to 10 minutes. That gives a narrative. And then we just play a battle report without trying to make the battle report like role playing. It's just, here's where we're at, now we're going to play a battle report. And then there's the story time to add more narrative to it. And that worked. We put out the first one and it had a humongous response, the Fate of Fayoum one. And so we realized this is something we have to keep trying. And now just because it worked once doesn't mean it's going to work every time, because it could just be that it's new and something fresh. And so we kept going, and now we see that, at least for now, we've only been doing them for, I don't know, 6 to 8 months at most, and they're still pulling in, they're still really helping to get a lot of vault members. And so yeah, so they are working. So when I say it's not really a brilliant idea, it's because for every one idea like the narrative campaigns that works out really well, there's half a dozen that kind of come and go that don't end up becoming a main thing. And that's just, I think that is, if I can say it, that's the brilliance of running a business, is not so much having the perfect idea, but having lots of ideas and being willing to try them and then get rid of the ones that don't work and keep the ones that do. That's how you can succeed there. You have to be willing to go outside of what you currently do and to see what else you can do. And who knows what the next thing will be, the next big thing that'll really help boost our business. I don't know. We'll have to wait and find out. So, continuing, personally I joined during the Primogenitor's Promise campaign. While I enjoyed that campaign and I always looked forward to the future missions, I was most happy when I discovered that 2 other narrative campaigns, Fate of Fayoum and Snagabog's Greed, had already been posted. This opened up the door for me to begin binge-watching campaign videos like I do my favorite shows on Netflix. That brings me to my question. At this time, with new episodes of the narrative campaigns and other series coming out every week, the Mini Wargaming site feels like a television station. Have you ever thought about posting all the videos in a series at once so your viewers can get all the content and watch it at any pace they want, making the site function more like Netflix or other streaming websites? Would you consider doing this for a particular series of videos? I can tell you straight up, no, definitely not. The reason for that is the same reason that a TV series doesn't wait till it's done to release a series on DVD, and that is that you want that consistent viewership. And you want to build that up. Sure, you get like Netflix where all of a sudden a new show will show up and there's a whole season that becomes available, and then later on another season becomes available. But you also have the iTunes kind of method where you can buy a TV show as it's coming out. So you can buy the season's pass, or you can buy them episode by episode. and they've released them as they're coming out. So that's the quickest way to get access to the videos. And for us, putting the videos out on a regular basis rather than in a clump allows us to have more consistent viewership. It's more important for us. If, for example, if I was only able to produce one video a week as a business, if we could only produce one video a week, I would rather put one video out per week than wait a month and put out 4 all at once. And that's because that consistency will earn you more viewers over time than just kind of sporadically putting out a bunch of stuff. And because the narrative campaigns and battle reports, they're created sporadically. In other words, like we create a bunch and then not any, then just a couple, then a bunch. It's not good for viewership just to kind of get them like we make them. And so it's better for them to be nice and consistent. So, and it's more important to get people coming back as often as possible rather than having them binge watch through all of them in a week. Because like that with Netflix, for example, because I have Netflix, I've noticed that, yeah, I'll find a show I like and I'll watch like 2 or 3 episodes a night or sometimes more, and I'll get through the show in just a handful of days, and then I'll have nothing to watch because everything else on Netflix I don't feel like watching, or I've already watched if I do want to see it. And so then I go away from Netflix for a couple weeks and come back and look for something that's new. And to me, that's not good for Netflix because you want to be. I think they would prefer that you just kind of watch it more often, even if you watch smaller things, like a couple episodes at a time or 1 episode at a time, because then it keeps them more in your mind. It helps you discover more stuff and everything else. So yeah, I don't think you'll ever see us do that. What we might do is at the end of a campaign, release the whole series like a DVD or something, which we might do in the future. Peter Gooding. Hi Matt, another quick question. Do you have a favorite codex? I.e. layout, artwork, special rules, etc. Keep up the greatness. Well, I have to say Tyranids. Layout and stuff, I don't really have any huge preferences. Artwork, I've talked about this in the past Sit and Talk. None of them have ever like stood out to me. Like I think the artwork's great, but it's not like in my mind there's like one who's like, yes, I love the artwork for this one. So I had to go with Tyranids because I just love Tyranids. I love their lore. I love just how they play. I love everything about them. Yeah, they're not the most competitive, and I'm okay with that because I don't play min-maxing lists, and so I'm okay with that. And the people I play against usually don't either. Dave, 9496. Hi Matt, been a Vault member for a couple months now. Awesome. And it is my first time asking a question. Don't know if this has already been asked, but have you thought about having an end-of-year sit and talk with the mini wargaming team and talk about the year, like your favorite parts and perhaps plans for next year? Thanks. Also, seeing the mini wargaming Space Marines has inspired me to make my own Space Marine chapter. I think we had mentioned, because somebody had asked about having a sit and talk with more than one employee, and I mentioned that that's hard to do because everybody's busy. And right now while I'm doing this, Dave and Steve are filming battle reports. Chris is working on videos. Ash is working on some projects, and Joel's not even here today. So trying to have a consistent show with somebody else would just be hard, and then you wouldn't know who to address questions to because it would just be sporadic. But then we did mention that maybe I'll do a special one later in the year where I get like everybody, and I'll warn you of that, and you can post questions to specific people. So we'll see. Vespasian Vlavian. Hey Matt, obviously it's nice when all the rules are right, but you guys are only human, right? The games are awesome, and I don't mind because you guys are awesome. Vault member for life. Well, thank you. We try to get as many right as we can, and then we just have to deal with what's wrong. Blippity blip. Hey Matt, you said before that one of the first war games you played was Lord of the Rings. Any chance you could do a one-off bat rep for those? Personally, I've never seen a Lord of the Rings bat rep, but I do love the models, especially the dwarves. P.S. Tell Steve I love him. There is a chance. I know eventually, it's been more and more in my mind, especially because Ash is here and he plays so many different games, about just kind of doing one-off battle reports for some of the smaller games. And I'm liking that idea more and more, like making it a consistent show, like once a week or once every other week, where it's like a smaller game gets showcased, or just a game that we don't normally play gets showcased. And it's almost like kind of like a fan service kind of thing, where I'm doing it because people really want to see it. But at the same time, it could become a popular show because it's like kind of watching Will Wheaton's Tabletop, where he plays a different game every week or every other week, but people still like it because it's him playing it. So it's not like he's found his favorite game and then you get to watch him play that over and over again in different ways. Now, board games are a little different because there's a little less depth to them than a miniature war game, or a lot less depth to them. But still, it might be something that we start doing, in which case Lord of the Rings could easily be on that roster. But I don't know, it's just an idea, it's inception. but not yet totally going. Bis5523. Hey Matt, first of all you guys do a great job making bat reps. Thank you. Just wanted to say I'm still in high school and have a difficult time trying to finance my Blood Angels army. Understandable. Let alone become a Vault member. Do you have any ideas or tricks of how I can save money and possibly subscribe to the Vault? I've been playing for 3 years, and by watching your bat reps, I learned so much. Right now, I need the Codex update, and possibly a Stormraven to be more competitive. I really want to thank you and your staff for working so hard. Your fan, B. I guess what I would say would be, if you don't already have one, get a job, obviously. Miniatures are expensive. The Vault isn't too expensive. You can get a bronze membership. If you buy a yearly bronze membership, it's like $35, so it's less than $3 a month. So even for somebody on minimum wage, like after one shift, you've got the money you need to buy a year's worth of Vault membership. Miniatures, on the other hand, those are a little more expensive. $35 will get you not much. That'll get you like one character. And I think that's why the Vault works, is that because in this market, people are spending tons of money, and so what's an extra $3 a month or $10 a month to join the Mini Wargaming Vault? So as for advice on saving money, it takes a lot of discipline to not just spend money that you have. You have to kind of budget yourself, and I guess it's just get a job, save money, and then buy the stuff that you want. So there's really nothing else I can say to that. Obviously, wishing for stuff for Christmas and birthdays will help, and slowly building your collection. Vidax, greetings Matthew. I signed up for a free membership today and had a chuckle when reading Mini Wargaming's terms and conditions. They were very succinct and simple. I can honestly say that they are the only terms and conditions I have ever read. Ever thought about expanding them? We probably should. We probably need to, now that we're bigger in terms of Vault memberships and other stuff, we probably should add more legal stuff in there. But there's really, you know, it's pretty straightforward. I signed up because of the fantastic narrative campaigns. I can't wait to see a campaign involving the Tau, and plan to sign up for the Vault when one rolls out. I don't mean that as a push from consumer to vendor, but merely as a statement of fact. Well, Tau, it's bound to happen sooner or later. Right now, yesterday, just started filming a Sisters of Battle narrative campaign, and that's going to start being released in a couple weeks, probably. Not next week, but probably the week after that. It all depends on how much we can get filmed, because I like to get ahead of ourselves before starting to post them, just in case we get delayed. Like we're going to Valhalla soon, the Blue Table Painting event. That's like in less than 3 weeks, and so if I can't get it all filmed in the next 2 weeks, then we'll be gone for a week, and so that can delay it. So I want to make sure that once we start posting them on Thursdays, that it can always come out every Thursday until it's done. So you can expect that in the next 2 or 3 weeks. So if you think about that, if that starts in the next 2 or 3 weeks, and I'm planning on having it go a full length, like 5 or 6 weeks, then that puts us into late November, early December. And at that point, my wife is due. So I'm probably going to try to get one more campaign in before I take some time off for when we have our baby. And so one more campaign, what will we do? I don't know. Maybe it'll be Tau. I haven't actually decided yet. It's not even something I've thought about yet. But we do have a Tau army now because we bought Ashes. And so we have a few thousand points there. So it is enough to do a campaign. And the universe that we're creating within the 40K universe is all in the Eastern Fringe, which is where the Tau live. And so we totally could bring them into the universe that we have. So they could be featured against the Tyranid, the High Fleet Charon, or against Kanum's Necrons, or against, the Mini Wargaming Space Marine chapter can be anywhere, or whatever else that we've kind of created at this point. Bob123654, ooh, see what you did there. If you could be anything in the Warhammer 40K universe, what would it be and why? I would be a person who lived on a world that was far away from the Imperium and every other race. Just a small world that doesn't have a lot of people on it, like tens of thousands of people, maybe hundreds of thousands of people on it, the entire world. And it's just outside of the reach of the Imperium and away from everything. Because by not having enough people, then you can't build up a big enough psychic presence to really have some chaos problems. And hopefully they just kind of avoid the Tyranids. Because if you think about it, like it looks like everything's at war, but it's a big galaxy. There's billions of stars in the galaxy. And so it's not possible that the Imperium is inhabiting every single one of them. They aren't. They just aren't. I think it even says that in the fluff, that there's tons of the worlds that they have yet to even to discover. So I would be somebody who lives on one of those worlds. Now, if your question was, you had to be involved in the 40k fluff somehow. I think I'd want to be in the Tau Empire, because they seem, and I want to be in like the Earth Caste, or Caste, whatever you want to call it, because they're like the engineers and the builders and the workers. That's what I want to be. Just a peaceful life. Don't want to be a warrior. Don't want to go out fighting. But the Tau Empire seems to be the best choice, because they seem generally that they're doing it for the greater good and not just because of whatever else. And sure, they're not perfect, but out of all the options, I think that's the one I'd like the most. Sam Stanfield. Hey Matt, greetings from a vault member from Northern Ireland. Well, hello. I have a couple of questions for you. Firstly, I'm thinking of purchasing a Tyranid Hero Duel model and was wondering whether the barbed or scythe version was better gameplay-wise. That's a hard choice. The barbed Hero Duel has 48-inch range. It's about 12 strength 10 shots. You can fire 6 at one target, 6 at another. They're AP3 as well, so that's good against Marines. But other than that, it's not very powerful. In close combat, it's okay. It's a gargantuan, so it's got all the gargantuan stuff, and it's got a few wounds and good strength and toughness. So it's a good support from the back. It does a lot of damage. The thing is, Tyranids don't scale up to Apocalypse very well when it comes to gargantuans, because they just don't have any good gargantuans compared to what the other armies have, like the demons or the super heavies of all the other armies. Now the Scythe Hero Duel, however, is a beast in close combat and has the Hellstorm template that can just melt away everything around him. So I think if I had to choose just one of them, I would choose a Scythe Hero Duel. That's what I would do. Because I think I like it a little bit more. But they're two completely different functions. One is up in your face, Hellstorm template, close combat with lots of attacks. And the other one is sit in the back and support, kind of an artillery piece. Only 4 feet of range, but that's usually enough to get some good targets. Secondly, I played a game of 40k with a friend the other day. My friend plays strictly to the letter of the rulebook. Oh, that'd be annoying. And allows no room for common sense. So during the game, he informed me that my quad gun intercepting his drop pods needs snapshots to hit, and then claimed jink saves for his land speeders, even though I had immobilized them. Was he right on both counts? Actually, in that case, yeah, he was. Because the quad gun, they've changed the rules for Skyfire. Skyfire, Skyfire has changed and Interceptor has changed. Skyfire used to be that when you're firing at gliding monstrous creatures, swooping monstrous creatures, or flyers that are in flyer mode, not in hover mode, then you could fire at full ballistic skill. Anything else you'd fire at, you'd have to snap fire. And Interceptor, which allows for you to fire at something after it comes in for reserves, if you combine that with Skyfire, it had a paragraph that stated if a model has Skyfire and Interceptor, they can choose not to Skyfire. So the quad gun basically had Skyfire, Interceptor, so he could basically intercept and he could fire at full ballistic skill at anything. Well, now Skyfire is you can fire at flyers that are up in the air, swooping monstrous creatures, but you can also fire at skimmers. And I think flying monstrous creatures who are down on the ground as well. So basically all those things you can fire at when they're down below at full ballistic skill. Everything else is snap firing. But Interceptor, they took out that paragraph where it said if you have Skyfire and Interceptor, you could choose not to Skyfire. So he is correct. Quad guns intercepting his drop pods. The drop pods are not skimmers, and so they are already on the ground, and you would have to snap fire. So that's perfectly fine. That's not nitpicking the rules. That's actually the rules. Now, whether you can get jinx saves on a land speeder who's immobilized, I think that needs to be FAQ'd, because right now rules is written, yes, you can take a jink save with a land speeder that's immobilized. And I checked this the other day, and jink, land speeders are skimmers, and skimmers have jink, and nowhere does it say under skimmers or immobilization or jink that if the vehicle is immobilized, it can't jink. It doesn't make any sense that it can, which is why I think that it'll be FAQ'd, but right now the rules, as they are there, allow jink saves on immobilized skimmers. Which you could make a house rule against, but right now that's clear in the rules that they can still jink. Doesn't make any sense. It better be FAQ'd, but in the meantime, he was right on both counts. Laz123. Hey Matt, thanks for the advice the other week. I have decided to go for Space Wolves and Chaos. I took your advice and flipped a coin over Nids and Chaos, and I have to admit Nids just didn't make me as happy. There you go. See, it's the perfect way to do stuff. I think my wife is the one that taught me that. It was like if there was movies that you're trying to decide to pick, it's so hard to just, when you feel like, I just want to watch a movie. And you're looking through your movie collection, it's so hard to pick one because, whereas if you walk into a room and somebody's already watching a movie, most likely you'll get interested and sit down and watch and you'll enjoy it. But picking one is hard. And so she's the one to introduce me to the idea of, well, let's narrow it down to 2 or 3. And then you put the couple behind your back and you shuffle them. And then you have the other person say right or left and they pull it out. And you have to look for your immediate feeling. Do you feel immediately disappointed? If you do, throw it away and take the other one. And that's the best way to do it when you're just not quite sure. I agree with some of the previous comments on how awesome the adapted character models you have are. I feel with them now sporting trophies of prior battles and campaigns really ties together this universe and story you're trying to brilliantly to create. Well, thank you. I think having a trophy case, etc. is a good idea, and it just means that if these narrative campaigns keep growing and growing, you could really have some cool things, even go so far, maybe as having a good character turn bad. For example, one of the Space Marine units becoming Chaos. No clues needed to be given which mini wargaming-based character. I could imagine making that switch. Great work on all the campaigns and battle reports. Now to my main comment. As I said, I love the fluff, and I've read a lot of the Horus Heresy, and after rewatching Lord of the Rings and Star Wars, I wondered if they would ever make a movie of the Horus Heresy. I feel that there is such great material there. They could easily make 3 epic films for a beginner introducing the universe to when Horus gets hurt, a second where the corruption begins to take and Istvan happens, and finally the 3rd film of the epic Terra War. Now what I was wondering is if this were to happen, Matt, who would you like to direct this film, and also what actors would you like to see in it, and any particular character you could see them playing? Personally, I feel J.J. Abrams or Peter Jackson could do it justice. And as for actors, well, it may sound strange, but I could kind of see a Sylvester Stallone, obviously heavily applied makeup and hair dye to try to roll back the years, being one of the Primarchs. I could definitely see Sean Bean playing Russ. Anyway, thanks for all the great content. Well, that's hard. That's hard because I have a hard time picturing a 40K movie. Like I know, because for one thing, they haven't really done them, except for that Ultramarines atrocity. I know there's that fan film being made as well, and that looks interesting, but so far I've just seen some test footage, nothing enough to see if it'll make a good movie or not. J.J. Abrams, obviously I like his acting, or his directing. Peter Jackson, I really enjoyed his Lord of the Rings interpretation, but he hasn't done a lot of other stuff I've enjoyed. In fact, a lot of his past stuff is pretty bad. So I don't know if I'd trust Peter Jackson to do it. But J.J. Abrams, yeah. Or Christopher Nolan. He's really good at dark, right? So that's what 40K is. As for actors, I always have a hard time picturing an actor. When I hear an actor is going to be cast in a role, it's just hard to picture. Like when Christian Bale was cast as Batman, I was like, I don't see that. And then he was great. The same thing with Heath Ledger as Joker. It's just like, I think everybody was like, what? Heath Ledger? Then he was a fantastic Joker. So it'd be really hard. I definitely know who I wouldn't want to direct it, and that would be Tim Burton or Explosion Guy. Oh, Rain did Transformers. Come on. Who directed Transformers? Michael Bay. Thank you. I don't know why I just had a brain fart. Michael Bay, who's just like, bah, blah, just throw explosions in there and make awful, awful movies. I definitely wouldn't want him to do it. So yeah, it'd have to be big budget though. None of this indie stuff. Not that the indie Lord Inquisitor movie is not going to be good, but I mean, like, if you want to do it right, it needs to be big budget because this is an epic science fiction thing. And I think it could be really well done. Now, what I'd be afraid of though is that they would just totally make it what everybody expects 40K to be, which is horribly gruesome and visceral. In which case it'd be like super rated R, and then I wouldn't enjoy it as much because I just don't enjoy that visceral. And I know people are gonna be like, oh, but you're playing blah 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 blah. I don't care. It's different when you have models on the table. Just accept that. Just accept that. And when I see models on the table, I don't picture a chainsaw going through a guy and more blood than could possibly be contained in the creature coming out of it. That's just not what I picture. I picture cool stuff, but not that. And so I have a funny feeling that the movie would be that. And it would be very violent and visceral. And I know a lot of fans would want that, and I just don't. So I don't know. I really don't know. It's hard to say. Zanwis 2. The Aragon film is terrible. I really hate it, but at the same time I don't, as it got me to read Aragon, which is the first book I read. Oh, wow. Wouldn't be the same person I was today without it. What fantasy creature do you find the most awesome, such as dragons, elves, vampires, etc.? Well, dragons have always been really cool. Elves and vampires and orcs and goblins, they're everywhere, and so it's hard to say. Dragons are too, obviously, but I mean, like when you watch Lord of the Rings, it's orcs, and then you watch, well, then you have 40K in fantasy, and they have orcs, and like everything has orcs. Although I think orcs are cool, and all of that, and elves are cool, and all, and dwarves. But I think dragons have always been the ones that fascinated me the most, because they're like this intelligent, huge monster that are pretty much always shown to be the most or close to the most powerful creatures of whatever universe they happen to be in. So they're kind of cool. Mickey Levy, hi Matt. This is the main reason you don't understand the appeal of historical gaming. You don't like reenactment. I know. Your frequent comments about not wanting to play scenarios or campaigns where the results are known, example famous 40K campaigns or the Lord of the Ring game, have shown that you don't like to reenact battles that have already happened. For a historical gamer, this is exactly what they're into. It's not about playing out the battle as it happened before, it's about the what-if aspects of it. What if Napoleon had attacked in the morning at Waterloo instead of the afternoon? What if Bowie and Travis had twice as many men at the Battle of the Alamo? This is the stuff that gets those gamers excited. And I understand that. It just doesn't get me excited. So it's not that, and you know what? It doesn't mean that we're not going to cover historical games. It just means that I don't want to play them. And so it might take a little longer to cover them because I'm not immersed in that market, so I can't see the potential of that market as well. So, but by no means does that mean that we're not going to cover historical games. Well, I'm sure we'll eventually get into those. But yeah, I totally agree. I don't like reenacting. I like to create new stories, new fluff, not reenact old ones. Now, like alternate versions of history, and more than just a what-if situation, like alternate world wars where all of a sudden it's like aliens arrived, or a rift opens and fantasy creatures come through. Like, that would be kind of cool. So you kind of take the historical stuff, and then you make it the whole weird world wars kind of idea. Like that to me is enough to kind of take it away from being historical gaming to just being another fantasy game, which is fine. My Shifter, good day, Matt. Good day, My Shifter. Always love watching your sit and talk videos. Didn't know that you and Dave started miniature wargaming with BattleTech. If you and Dave had a choice of joining a faction in the BattleTech universe, what will it be and why? Oh, it's been a long time since I read the fluff. I remember there's the clans, obviously, but there's a bunch of different clans. Then there was like the Japanese one. I don't even remember the names of them, of all the different factions. So I honestly couldn't answer that because I don't remember them. But I do remember I do remember really liking the universe as a kid, growing up as a teenager. Bernie Bits. Hi Matt, this is my first post as a Mini Wargaming member. Awesome, welcome. Hopefully by the end of the year, the old wallet will be stacked enough that I can become a Vault member for life. I hope so. A bit of background. I've been reading the 40K fluff for several years now, but resisted and started getting into the game for various reasons until I came across Mini Wargaming. Those early bat reps, Dave's Where to Start with 40K video, and your 6th edition tutorial series were my incentive to give them a try. I'm slowly but surely building a Salamander's army and hope to have it ready to go on the tabletop by spring. Now for comments and questions. 1. I am glad you addressed the issue of excessively gory models in the last sit and talk, as this was a question that occurred to me after hearing your take on sexualized models. I generally disagree, as I think that if it's a fundamental aspect of an army's fluff, then it should be represented in the models, but I respect you sticking to your guns. 2. Back in 2012, Chris at AG Productions did a review of Mini Wargaming's Painting Academy DVD series. Overall, he was very complimentary, but had some pointed criticisms, and I was curious if you or Dave had seen the review and what your thoughts were if you had. I think I saw parts of it, but I honestly don't remember anything about it. So, can't really give any comment onto that. 3. I am one of a number of contributors at TV Tropes who work on the wiki's various 40K pages. And I was wondering if you, Dave, or anyone else there knew about them, as I'd love to get your thoughts on them and if there's anything we need to work on or correct. I don't, actually. I'm sorry. I'm sorry that all my answers I'm not familiar with that. I don't remember that. 4. If you haven't already read them, I highly recommend the Caiaphas Cain books. The first omnibus was my first 40K book, and I was hooked immediately. I think that series is a great way to introduce people to the settings, as they're well written, packed with sly humor, and don't slap you upside the head with grim dark like other titles. They sort of drape it across your shoulders and go, good fit, eh? That's all I got for now. Looking forward to new bat reps and sit and talks. Keep up the awesome work. CJMM14. Matt, I've recently started filming my own battle reports. Awesome. While I haven't posted any yet, trying to find time for post-production, I just want to tell you all how much more respect I have for the work you guys put into things. It's a lot harder to keep track of everything when a camera is involved. I know, right? I know myself and others have ragged you all for rules mistakes, but after filming myself, I can honestly say it is hard to remember everything with the camera in your hands and shoulder mount. Now for a question. What is your favorite novel? Right now, my favorite novel would be The Way of Kings by Brandon Sanderson. I first got introduced to Brandon Sanderson by his Mistborn trilogy, which was just fantabulous. I just absolutely love Mistborn. And then later on, I read other books of his as well. But The Way of Kings, it took me 2 tries to get into it because it's a 1,000-page book that has a bajillion characters and lots of storylines. But once I got into it, it's just a fantastically epic book. It's one of a series of 10, and he's already written the second one, which I didn't enjoy quite as much, still enjoyed, but didn't like as much as the first book. But that's okay, because I still liked it. But he's supposed to be writing these 10 books, which is huge. It's a huge task, and hopefully he stays alive long enough to do it. He is a fast writer. So The Way of Kings by Brandon Sanderson, I would have to say, is my favorite right now. Ralgon, evening Matt, if a hive of Tyranids were Jewish, with hats and beards the whole 9 yards, what would you think they would consider kosher? What? So we have a Tyranid hive that's Jewish, what would they consider kosher? You mean like which species? I don't know if I can answer that without sounding like I'm making fun of Jews, because I don't want to sound like I'm making fun of Jews. I totally respect them and their religion. And they're following their laws of health and stuff and kosher and all that. So understand that this isn't making fun of them. I don't know which of the species would be like, because like they don't have pigs. There's a lot of things that they can't have, but I know pigs is kind of the one that first comes to mind. And then they can have like beef. They can, like, positive. So which species would be considered pigs? I guess orcs would be not kosher because they got like the tusks and stuff, so they kind of look like they've evolved from pigs. But I don't think Jews are allowed to eat humans either. Like, it's just, I don't know. Which race would be like cows? I decline to answer. I plead the fifth. Also, was that a Tau model kit in a box behind you? Yeah, got a box right here with a bunch of Tau models because I'm adding to the army that Ash had sold us. I got it. He didn't have any Riptides or any of the flyers, so I bought a few Riptides and a few flyers to get painted up. Cook TM, hey Matt, how are you? I am fine, thank you. I was wounding me, and about 8 other mates are trying. Okay, hold on. I'm just going to read what you wrote, and then I'll see if I can figure it. I was wounding me, and about 8 other mates are trying to get some miniatures made. We get concept art and 3D models made. Where would you go to get them made? Oh, we have also got them some sculpted. Cheers. Oh, I don't know. Where I got them done was a place in Burlington, Ontario, Canada. Rafm, RAFM.com. But if you're not in Canada, then that's probably not your best bet. So there's a bajillion manufacturers of metal miniatures out there. Plastic is going to be much harder, and it takes a ton of money and knowledge to do that right. So, but that's about where the extent of my model experience goes, right there. James Laws, hey Matt, I was wondering, have you ever had to turn somebody away or disallow their models? Also, would you ever remove somebody from the vault for abusive or offensive commenting or behavior? The first one, I haven't had to turn anybody away. Like, okay, for example, for the Sisters of Battle campaign that we're about to do, I basically said I don't want any Sisters Repentia and I don't want the Penitent engine. Because the Sisters Repentia are just, it's too sexualized, and the Penitent engine I just find, even for 40k, too sacrilegious, because it's basically a sister nailed to a cross and going into battle. And I just don't want to see that. And so, and the cool thing is he was totally good with that, and he actually even wrote it into the fluff of his particular coven, how do you ever say that? That they don't even have Repentia, and that the canonist doesn't believe in that kind of way of doing things, which I think, that was pretty cool. You know, he didn't just not bring them, but he gave a reason for not bringing them. But that's probably the only time that I've ever asked somebody not to bring certain models. But he hadn't brought them yet. We were just talking about the campaign. As for the second one, would I ever remove somebody from the vault for abusive or offensive commenting or behavior? Absolutely. Oh yeah. Hasn't had to happen yet, but I would definitely do that. So, yeah, just not worth it. Elevator Lake, Vault member since a couple of months and loving it. Thank you. How is the Tau Army coming along? I already talked about that. Would be interested with an update and perhaps even a battle soon. Yeah, you should soon, being like the next 2 or 3 months, you should probably start seeing them. And I say that because like our 40k battle reports, we've already got 2 months of them done. So if I make a battle report today, it's not coming out for a while. Lexin, hi Matt, been a Vault member for a good handful of months now. I think I'm approaching a year. Awesome. I love your site, I love your content, you guys are awesome. My first commenting on a sit and talk, but I do really enjoy this series. I wanted to mention something about the rules in 40k battle reports and campaigns. Know that I have heard you talk about this in previous instances to a minor degree, so I completely sympathize with all the reasons why you guys get rules wrong. As a viewer, however, sometimes it's just completely absurd how much is done incorrectly. I think that if 1 to 4 rules were missed in a single battle report or campaign mission, that's okay, no big deal. Yes, someone will point them out still, but at least there wouldn't be lists of them. Some of the reports and missions are just absolutely loaded with major rules errors and things that literally change the outcome of the game. This is when it becomes no fun to watch because it's like the game is unintentionally rigged. I'm not sure what the resolution here would be, other than possibly forcing everyone to do some serious studying of the core rules and those for their armies they tend to play. For guys that do this professionally, it comes across as very unprofessional to not do almost everything correctly. I'm just going to repeat what I said before. It's perception. It's perception of how much you think that you and other people around you get the rules right. And I argue that the majority of people out there get just as many, if not more, rules wrong than we do when we do our battle reports. And the reason that you don't necessarily see that is because you don't have 10,000 to 20,000 people watching you and commenting on everything that you did wrong. So that's the thing. These games are super complex. The 40k rule book alone has over 100 pages of rules and just got into a new edition. And Codex is being updated like every month. Like, it's just, to expect to be able to get all the rules right is I would say, it's actually absurd. Now, what you're saying about how many rules get wrong, yeah, we got to do our best. But in the end, I don't know. What really made me feel good is I was watching Will Wheaton's show Tabletop, and this is coming back to that, which is a very popular show. So obviously he's doing some things right. And I was watching all these different board games he's playing, and I didn't really notice him getting rules wrong. But then he played Star Wars X-Wing, a game that I was very familiar with, and he got a ton of stuff wrong, like tons of stuff wrong. Just so many things wrong. And that made me feel really good. I'm like, if Will Wheaton in Tabletop, which is a super high production show, way more high production than us, way more popular than us, way more viewers and subscribers than us, is doing this professionally and he gets that many rules wrong, then obviously it's acceptable for that. There will always be people who will have an issue with that, and I understand and accept that. And I remember even in an interview, Will Wheaton was asked if he ever visited the Board Game Geek forums, and his response was he's afraid to because he knows that he's not super anal about the rules, and so he knows people are just going to rip him apart in the forums. Because when you go to forums, you get the most vocal and dedicated players. And I think that goes also to a certain degree, to comments on videos. That if you think about it, if we get 20,000 views on a video, and if we get a lot of comments on that video, it would be like 100 comments. That's like, okay, we got a lot of comments. So that's 100 comments. Forget about the fact that one person might comment more than once. Let's just pretend that's one person each. That's 100 people out of 20,000 who left a comment. Now, out of those 100 people, there's a fraction of those who talk about the rules that we got wrong. And so now I know there's going to be people who notice things that don't leave comments, but just the fact that we're basing opinions off of a small minority, like even if all 100 people out of that, let's say it was 10,000 views and 100 people, that's 1%. But it's not even 1%. It's 0.5%, and then it's a percentage of that 0.5% of people who are vocalizing these kind of perceptions, these things that they're like, we don't like, I really don't like how many rules you get wrong, it makes this unwatchable. And so it can make the impression of what things should be. But I know we do our best. We don't have any more time to read more rule books and all that. We have to just, the only way that we learn these, every game that I play is recorded. I don't have time for games outside of recording. So therefore, you're watching me learn certain aspects of the game too, and other members of our crew. And that's just the way it's always going to be. And I don't think that'll ever change, no matter, you can get somebody who's a super expert on the game and that's still going to happen, because when you're filming, when you're dealing with a bajillion rules, with a codex that maybe you've never played against before or not very often, and maybe you're starting a new army, you're going to get rules mistakes. It's just going to happen. And sometimes there's going to be a lot of them. Sometimes there'll be less. We try for the smallest number as possible, but that is always going to be the case. Okay. Pedro, 1136. Hi Matt, I really enjoy all your content, particularly the Storms of Ixia campaign. The story focus is a really good addition to the game, something that gets ignored a lot in 40k, I feel. I mostly watch battle reports to see how certain units work and get ideas about how to use them. I realize it's hard to cover all armies, so I'm glad when I see a bat rep that features an army I play. I get really disappointed when I watch a battle report and the players get the rules wrong. No hate for Zach, everyone makes mistakes, but forgetting you have storm shields on a model that is clearly holding it is a bit much. I'm noticing this sort of thing keeps happening more, happening more and more lately. Is there some way you and the team could address this? So, same thing, I already answered that. And that's another factor. You get somebody coming in, and you're counting on the person who's volunteering their time to come in and play against us to know the rules inside and out. And I can tell you a lot of these players don't. There's been common rules that like some people have come in who are veterans to the game, who've been playing forever, and then we get to something as simple as cover saves, and they're like, no, that's not how it works. It works like this. And I'm like, no. And I open up the rule book, and it's like clearly written right there. And so it just happens. It's a game. It's a game. You're going to make mistakes. Tempest, 1989. Hey Matt, 3 questions today. 1, throughout history, religion in general has been very much against any form of magical entity in various fiction. Example, Harry Potter, Narnia, and Lord of the Rings series. In sci-fi fiction such as Star Wars. Either because it involves magic, creatures not depicted in the Bible, or comparisons or metaphors to holy texts. Have you had any of these responses towards you or 40K from people at your church, if you've told them what you do for a living? Most people know what I do for a living. And no, I haven't had that response. And there have been certain churches who show negative, and certain people in certain churches, not even necessarily a certain church's stance, that obviously are against things like Harry Potter. Narnia, that's interesting that you say that, because that was made by C.S. Lewis and was meant to be an allegory for Christianity, with like the lion being Jesus Christ and, excuse me, and the witch being the devil, of course, and Narnia being, yeah, it's just, there's tons of parallels between the two. And not because he was making fun of it, but because he was an avid Christian, and he just wanted to incorporate that into his fiction. Even Star Wars, when you listen to Yoda, there's a lot of kind of Christian thinking in there, or religious thinking, whatever, not necessarily not just stuck with Christian, but religious thinking in there. So no, I don't have a problem with that kind of stuff. I have no problem with fiction depicting magic and all that, as long as it doesn't go like too far. Just like anything else. Like I don't have a problem with fiction depicting violence or whatever, as long as it doesn't get too gruesome or gory or visceral, that kind of thing. 2, if you could have any one weapon or special rule, including character unique rules from the 40K universe, what one would you pick? I think I would pick Commissar Yarrick's Iron Will, where he just gets back up after being killed. He gets back up, and gets back up, no matter what, just gets back up. I think I'd like that rule. 3, if you could spend 1 hour talking to any one person from history, who would it be? Oh, I am not a history person. 1 hour talking to any one person from history. I don't know. Maybe... I really don't know. I've never thought of that. And nothing's coming to my mind as I think about that right now. Except like an obvious one, because I'm a Christian, so like thinking about like Jesus Christ, being able to talk to him for an hour, that would be pretty cool. But if you're thinking of other things other than religious things, then I'm not quite sure. Duke Gaming. First time commenter, first time vault member actually. First off, just wanted to say thanks for all the great videos. After 10 years away from 40K, I'm now more pumped to get back into it than ever before. Awesome. Just wanted your take on one aspect, seeing as how you're not a tournament style player like myself. I love the lore and idea of an all Ravenwing army, but all I read is how terrible an idea that is. Just casual pickup games, maybe casual tourneys. Am I going down the wrong road that much? Hope you get to this one. Regardless, thanks again. Well, I'm not a tournament goer, so when you say I love the idea of, I say go for it. And an all Ravenwing army is not going to be horrible. It might not be like the perfect list to bring to a tournament, but it'll allow you to have fun. So I would go for it because it's fun and you want to do it. Dragon Shaman 27. Matt, you've had many employees work at Mini Wargaming. Out of all your employees, past and present, please list your top 10 you like to play them against. I'm going to decline that question because obviously don't want to like start telling for employees around here to find out which ones I like more than others. That's kind of that's a bad like parenting technique. It's like I like this kid better than that kid. Not that I'm their parents by any means, because some of them are older than me, but you know what I mean. So I'm going to decline that. And when you say, it's funny that you say top 10. I don't think we've had 10. Like maybe 10. So it says that would be all of them. So they're all my favorite. Robbie King 123. Hi Matt, what is your favorite moment in the Lord of the Rings movies? That is easy. That is so easy to answer. In the third Lord of the Rings, Return of the King, my favorite, and this is my favorite in the whole series, is when the Rohirrim arrive at Minas Tirith, and they come over that hill and they look down, and you can see the fear on their face as they see the 200,000 orcs storming the city, and the city is on fire, and it looks like the battle's been lost. And they're standing there, and Theoden takes a second to compose himself, and then he gives an awesome speech as he's running along them. And after the speech, they all cheer, even with the girl in there. It's still cool, and they cheer. Not that girls are bad, but she just kind of, her cheer was just so cheesy. And like, ah! But anyway, they did their cheer, and then it pans out to all like 6,000 of them. And then the very favorite moment is they're charging down. The music is building up as they charge. The orcs all turn, and they start to they form up their ranks. But you can see the fear in their eyes as 6,000 Rohirrim are charging down a hill towards them in a wedge formation. And then there's that one moment. I just watch this and I just feel that thrill building and building and building. And that moment when they smash into the orc lines is the most exhilarating moment in any movie I have ever watched, ever. And I just absolutely love that. That moment right there. That very moment where they smash into the first orc and start going through them. That moment in time, that not even a second, that nanosecond, or what's the smallest form of measurement? I can't remember what it's called. The quanta thing? I can't remember. But that moment in time is my favorite moment of all movies, because it just has such a good build-up to it. Because the whole movie is a build-up to it. It's like this huge army arriving at Minas Tirith, and the doom that they all feel, and they fight their hardest, and they actually hold them off for as long as they can, but eventually they start pouring in, and then they're losing, and they're stuck, and they're at the point where all hope is lost, and then they show up. I know it's the whole cavalry arriving and saving the day, but really it was different than that, because, well, not only because the Oliphants arrived, but because they were vastly outnumbered. And so it was just cool. It was such a good moment. I loved it. Absolutely, absolutely loved that. So, I'm going to answer one more question. Iquos. Hey, would you kick out someone who would swear during making of a battle report? I would ask them to stop. And if they refuse to, I don't see anybody refusing to stop. I've had people with that before where they've said swear words, and because it's part of their habit, and I've asked them not to, and they've always been apologetic and good. So if they insisted on swearing, I probably would. Yeah, I'd say, I'm sorry, we can't film this, because but I've never had a person who's unwilling to kind of concede to what we need them to do. So I hope that would never happen. Also, what do you think about the idea of movie Marines? That's essentially the idea of making Marines as cool as they would be rules-wise. Regular Marines with like 2 wounds and 2+ save, and Terminators with 2 save rerollable on 4 and 3 wounds. Of course, they would be more expensive, but fun. Should be really big. That'd be kind of fun to actually have them be what they are compared to like the Imperial Guard and other armies. You could definitely like scale that down to a smaller version of the game and have it be more skirmish to make it work that way. So I think that would be fun. Okay, I'm out of time. Phone's buzzing, that one's ringing. I gotta go. But thank you for watching. Make sure you leave your comments and questions on this one so that they can get answered in next week's. And happy wargaming.